yesterday. An Australian military plane spotted 4 orange objects in the ocean during yesterday's search.
Meanwhile, relatives of some of the Chinese passengers on board the plane have arrived in Kuala Lumpur, demanding answers from Malaysian authorities. Thoughts, though, are now turning towards the legal ramifications for Malaysia Airlines and just what kind of compensation families of the victims can now expect to receive for their loss. Aviation lawyer Joseph Uillera is in our Perth newsroom. Joseph Uillera, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
I understand you got a bit of a buzz in your earpiece this morning, so thanks so much for persisting with us. You work with Shine Lawyers and you're representing members of the families of 2 of the Australian victims. Is that correct?
I am representing families. I don't want to go into the detail of who and how many I represent, but what I can say is that these families are suffering through a tremendously difficult time, and we want to be there for them and provide them with information that they'll need going forward.
May I ask if they contacted you or if you contacted them?
We don't contact families. They've reached out to us.
So does the compensation matter is the first thing that's on your mind at the moment, or are there other things as their legal representative that you would like from the Malaysian government?
There's several things that we're investigating and considering at the moment, and primarily, I should say, on behalf of the families we represent, what we're doing for them right now is giving them space, time to come to terms with the depth of their losses and their grief. That's first and foremost. Secondly, we're preparing information for them on their avenues of compensation, and there are several.
Can you talk us through what those avenues are?
Absolutely. Well, primarily there is an aviation compensation claim available principally under the Montreal Convention. So that treaty provides that the airline is strictly liable up to a cap on damages of just under 200,000 Australian dollars without the plaintiff having to demonstrate fault.
So just to jump in there, no action actually has to be taken there. $200,000 per person, if I can put it that way, is just because of that convention immediately liable.
The airline is liable, but that's not to say that a lump sum payment will be given. It actually works by way of proven losses. So a family would have to show a level of dependency or reliance on the breadwinner's income and services to calculate that sum. Above that sum, the airline has a reversed burden of proof. So if it can't prove that it was negligent or in some way responsible for the loss of the aircraft and the death of the passengers, then the passenger's family is able to recover effectively an unlimited sum to the extent of its proven losses. So that's the aviation compensation side of things. There is a second strand of compensation potentially available, depending on the evidence that's pulled out of the Southern Indian Ocean, and that's in relation to product liability, and that could be in relation to the aircraft manufacturer, the engine manufacturer, or any other systems manufacturer which is implicated in the cause of the accident from the evidence. Now, we're aware of certain firms in the United States taking preemptive action on behalf of families, which we think is premature at best and unmerited. We think the better approach is to step back and wait for the evidence to show what the actual cause was. Thirdly, there is one other avenue of compensation potentially available, and that's in relation to the international ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization policies on family assistance to aircraft accident victims. And we think those policies haven't been fully complied with by the government of Malaysia, and we're taking steps to help families enforce their rights under those policies, and we'll liaise with the government of Malaysia to ensure that happens.
They all sound like very lengthy and very complicated legal proceedings should they be issued, and of course would have to take place over a long period of time and dependent on recovering some wreckage. In the short term, in your view as these Australians victims representative, do you believe that the Malaysian government is fulfilling all the obligations that it might have towards relatives of the missing?
No, we don't feel they have. At this stage, most of the families have worked out arrangements of their own with the government of Malaysia in relation to the provision of information to them and how that's achieved, and their needs should be catered for in that particular way and services provided to them, especially for those who can't travel to Kuala Lumpur or Beijing, where family groups exist. So What we're doing now is ensuring that families are aware of their rights, and our Shine Lawyers website has put information up there that's of use for all families, whether we represent them or not, to know what those rights are and to ensure they're empowered to seek justice for themselves.
And in the meantime, as you set about preparing some actions that might flow from this, are they legal actions that would necessarily or logically be better run if they drew together a number of other complainants into the one action? Are these normally the sorts of legal matters that are run as group or class actions?
Each action is a separate one, but there is strength in numbers. What we want to do is avoid litigation if at all possible. So if we can bring a number of families' claims to the airline insurer, we have better strength in negotiating for them. Litigation is the last option. Now, that's in relation to the aviation compensation claim. But particular claims which may arise in future against the government of Malaysia, perhaps in relation to the family assistance policies, those are actions that may well be a group action depending on the instructions we receive, and they could be pursued in the future.
Joseph Uillera, good to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
In other news this morning, new research shows there's been an increase in the number of underground websites selling illegal drugs to Australians. US law enforcement agencies shut down the notorious Silk Road website back in October, but the National Drug and Alcohol Research Centre says there are now dozens more websites vying to replace